Alright, welcome back. Let's jump into this. Creating a standard WPF project, because that seems to be what people want. I think you ought to jump over to Windows App SDK, but seems to be what, looking at my timeline, people are looking at the most. Windows App SDK, its desktop project is almost identical to WPF, and it's better. Tree View has a selected item we can bind to. We can do all kind of neat stuff that we can't do in WPF. But this is what you want. I still like WPF. Although I look at the Windows App SDK as being WPF. UWP had a baby. And it was better than both of the parents. It's definitely better than UWP thus far. Just adding a folders. This is a very basic MVVM project. We're not going into the crazy hierarchies. It's kind of funny at the end of all this, at the end of writing my guide, I realized that the hierarchy I created in the previous projects would be perfect for this. It actually makes a lot more sense. I wouldn't even have to think of a reason for the when we get to the equations. I wouldn't have to think of a good reason for the hierarchy. It makes total sense. But I didn't put it in here. That's okay, though. We'll split our equations up into their children. We do need a notifier. I'm just going to copy and paste the notifier. I've done this too many times. Maybe I should put a tutorial, just a 5-minute tutorial out there on the base model view. But yeah. Pause right now and type that into your notifier. Your notifier should be a base class under the base folder. Don't worry about that. It's Microsoft judging itself. Just close it. Now in our view model, we want to put our base view and our main view. Very robotic. Very cookie cutter. I'm just going over to my guide tutorial. Visual Studio opened up in my other window and just copying and pasting. We'll go ahead and type base view though. I mean, it's so short. Probably messed something up by typing too fast. Typing pretty slowly right now, actually. Yeah, see. What'd I do? I've confused it. It confused me. That was IntelliSense typing a capital view. Alright, that's our base view class. It's done. Main view. It's going to be our main window and we're almost done. We are going to put some properties in here for our dev side of this project where we're developing our dice. Why does it want to call that parent? That makes no sense. Just randomly types parent in there. It's a generic Microsoft. You do understand generics, don't you, Microsoft? I thought you had part in creating them. Alright, so we are doing a split view. Easier navigation. I'm just going to do a single split view, so show left panel. Check in here. I've gotten back into putting the checks in every time because I've been playing with C++. If you don't do it in C++ in WinRT, you will get a crash. You will crash because it will. C++ is not doing the nice check in the background to make sure that you're not calling the same property 1,000 times. That's funny. I type roll and roll. bunch of different rolls. No, this is roll as in rolling the dice. This is the result of our roll. Just a few properties. I'm having fun with this project. I could care less about the fight. The OGL fight. People are basically fighting for companies to get to sell their products and not pay Wizards of the Coast money for using their copyrighted products. So it's nuts because these other companies are not selling those products cheap. They're like $150 for a book, $300 for a set. It's like you ain't giving no one any benefit. You ain't giving anyone any breaks. Why is everyone on your side? I'm not on D&D side. I'm not on Wizards of the Coast side. I'm not their fan. So we are going to go ahead and put a couple pages in here, but right now we're just going to do our dice dev. I like mysteries. I like mystery tabletop games. And I like space tabletop games. We have just as many monsters. Someone actually copyrighted Gumshoe, which is a traditional hard-boiled detective type of term. Gumshoe is a lowest level detective. It's a detective that got gum on their shoe from walking the beat all the time looking for clues. And someone actually copyrighted that as their dice rolling. SRD. It's like, you shouldn't get to do that. It's like copyrighting the word apple. Well, someone did do that, didn't they? Or copyrighting the word window. Wait a minute. Someone did copyright window, didn't they? Or copyrighting how to dial a phone number. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, someone did that too. Someone did copyright how to dial a phone number. We're all supposed to pay this feller from India money every time we make a phone call because he copyrighted how to dial a phone number, or he patented it. He did it in my state too, of Texas. I was totally ashamed. It's just like so embarrassing. You actually let someone patent how to dial the phone. It's just so shameful. Very soon, we're not going to be able to actually speak with words. So we could do all this, I guess, in the model view and have the width of that one of column left bound to a property in the model view, because we are binding the actual show left variable. But I don't feel like it. All right, I'm going to copy this path over here for the content also. I'm not going to type that path in. So you'll need to pause and type it in. I'm not posting my code anymore either. What's wrong? I forgot to close it. Come on. Content. Did not come up in the telesense. Totally confused me. All right, pause and copy that, paste, type that in, path. That's our little button. That's a standard button. Standard looking of the button for panels and toolbars and everything. All right. We need a frame for our page to display in. And although I'm going to go ahead and bind the data context, it does no good. We have to set the data context in the code behind. Drives me nuts. Yeah, okay, it doesn't actually drive me nuts. I'm lying. It's an annoyance. And that's the button to open our dice dev page. So we're going to navigate over to the dice dev page. And yeah, we're not going to do any commands. Maybe later on. So there's our two buttons. We need to put a method in here to handle the resize. And then we'll jump over to get to the math, to the random, and all that good stuff. And I'll tell you a couple things I've learned in my 20 plus, 30 plus years. I don't know. 1989. I didn't actually start software until 1995. I've been in IT since 1989. Well, technically, I entered basic training in 1988, but I didn't actually enter IT until 1989. Networking. In fact, I'm doing this project in C++ for myself, so. UWP. But I stopped midway and said that would make a great tutorial. Start up the project in C#. Now, what sense did that make? IntelliSense? Can you tell me? I did not type in E, I typed in N. So there we actually set our data context of the new page that we're loading to our data context on this page. And that will navigate. Okay, let's test this. Okay, let's set up our page here. We'll do this part methodologically. My tongue isn't working today. It's a bad day to do voiceovers. Okay, it's a bad day to do narrations. Narrations. Nothing's coming out right. I'm not having a stroke, so I'm low on caffeine. So we will put each role into its own button right now in our dev part. So we will have a role for, and we are doing multi-threading here. So we can pass parameters to our different threads. And we'll do it more dynamically when we actually get to the equation editor. But here, we will do it very statically. We're going to have it execute 4, execute 6, execute 8, and I'll talk about them. And we'll have our percentile. Put each of our click methods in. The main thing we're using MVVM for in this case is to update our labels rapidly fast as we're rolling our dice, to kind of simulate the dice rolling. Now we're just going to whatever random number is next on the list. You can get more in depth and make the roll more realistic by going to a number that neighbors the previous number on your dice. But that's kind of nuts. A little bit too much for this. If you get this, you should be able to figure that out. I don't think anyone can ever even notices. So we want a label to show the result, and we want a label to show how many times the dice actually rolled. I believe I have it between 10 and 20 for everything except the percentile roll. And because that rolls actually 2 dice, that's between 5 and 10 rolls. So we actually do a random on our number and a random on how many times it rolls. That's the attempts. Let's see, the left and right line doesn't even matter in WPF, but that's okay. And let's get to our next methods. Well, we need to put the view model in here first. The view model makes things kind of nice because we don't have to invoke on the dispatcher as much with the view model. We're setting a field in the parent class. If we were setting the property, then we would have to use the dispatcher invoke. But we don't gotta. I'm gonna stub out these methods. Or actually write them out. Okay, so we're doing a new random. We're going to base it on milliseconds of the current time. If you are sure that your application is going to be running on a i5 or better, then you would actually do your random more often. We would do one random. We would reinitialize a random here after we call dispatcher invoke. For the actual rolls with a different millisecond, of course. You see, in this case, I'm setting the actual property attempts versus setting the field. So I have to actually call dispatcher invoke to go across the threads. And so now I'm getting how many times I'm going to roll. Excuse me, I'm getting my value of what I have rolled. The count is actually how many times I've rolled. And I'm dividing that by 1,000 because this is a 4-sided dice. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm calling dispatcher invoke because I want to see it update over and over again, like the dice is actually rolling. So, in all actual fact, I would put the random, I would reinitialize it again, possibly every loop in our loop down here, in our 4 int loop. And then I am sleeping in between loops, not even a second, a tenth of a second. So I'm sleeping very short time, but I'm sleeping enough to make a little bit of variation in our roll. And we're just going to copy and paste same method and update our random next to be the sides of our dice times 1,000. So So this is 10, so that'll be 10,000, etc. Except for the percentile, we have to do percentile anew and fresh. In the case of percentile, as I said, we do 5 to 10 because we're doing it twice. So we're not going to give it as many chances to roll. Mainly because I don't feel like waiting. That's not it. We're not sleeping for a 10th of a second. We're sleeping for a 100th of a second. Yeah, because the second is 1,000 milliseconds divided by 10. That'd be 100. So we'll have two results down here. I'm negating the value of my results. I could have done 0 through 9,000 or something, but I didn't feel like handling divide by 0 or the 0. The sleep causes the random to work better. Taking 2 off from the second result. Don't really have to. So if both results are less than or equal to 0, then our value is 100. That's the only case we get 100. Maybe I'm being a little bit nice here by making sure that we never get 1, but I am. And we just add those two values together with this method, and that gives us our percentage. Not exactly what you do with board games, but now we need to call each of these. So we'll create a thread, and that thread we'll call the execute method. I like to put them in the background. Don't really have to, but this part would not be so prevalent in a game because you would be on the screen looking at your character, or you're at the table and you're rolling the dice. You're TCP to the other players. And you're rolling the dice in a remote game. So you're probably not full screen. There we go. I think it's pretty simple. It's pretty cool, ain't it? Alrighty, if you got something out of this, like and subscribe. All glory be to God. play around with it, mess around with the numbers, tear it up. And I will see you in the next video.